asked you the most that wasn't like his persona? Did anybody actually fit that description?
Who wasn't like his persona? That's a
Right.
really good question. Well, one person who was like his persona was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was really a player. I'm not sure if you
No.
know that. Bill Clinton could have been with the young ladies in the street life. He was a real smooth player. I was interviewing him. He looked like he had been hanging around black people. I know that has nothing to do with hip hop, but Bill Clinton was like, you shook his hand, you might want to give him a little kiss there, Lonzo. So Bill Clinton, even though he was a politician, I think he was with the street culture. So
what?
Yeah. Funny. Another person who I think a lot of people who just texted me right now, so ironic that you said that, is Too Short. I think people think that Todd, because he says, bitch and, strippers and gangsters and strippers and all this kind of stuff and suck my dick or whatever, all these kind of things that he says, he's very, very intellectual, very quiet, kind of not quiet, but well-spoken, is not a loud dude, and is just a real, like, down-to-earth person. I think people create these caricatures, of themselves to promote that kind of thing. Like when you see even like a DMX, who I met and interviewed, or and obviously Tupac to some extent, even though he had a wilder side. So I think people create these images to be whatever. You had a stage presence, you had a whole stage character that you created. And I think sometimes hip hop, sometimes people get too lost in it. And it's good to see someone like Too Short who stays himself.
I talk about that all the time. That's one of the things I put in my book. People would get mad at me, and I would tell them they're not really like that. And it's like somebody telling a kid, "Ain't no Santa Claus." Okay, when ain't no Santa Claus, and somebody believes wholeheartedly that this little white man comes down my chimney and brings me gifts every year, I gotta give him some cookies. I gotta give him some milk, and them reindeer's gonna be hungry. No, man, that's your mama. No, don't tell me that. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Talks about some of these artists, man. Folks like, oh no, man, that's the hardest dude. I remember one time I had a little debate with a young lady. We were talking about I was doing an interview in Compton, and she said, somebody said, this guy discovered Ice Cube. She said, oh, I just love Ice Cube so much. He's so dope. He's such a gangster. I said, what gang is Ice Cube from? He from. Wait a minute. He was, but again, she had brought him to the persona, and she drank the Kool-Aid.
Right, because that's gonna sell albums.
That's gonna sell albums. And that was the one part when everything was presented to me as a package. I'm like, dude, y'all must have some dangerous shit here. Most guys who say that, they do that, and that's not something that for a guy from my era could play that game. They got away with it. But for the most part,
I know that you haven't had the best relationship with Suge, but I will say this about Suge. I did Who Shot Biggie and Tupac with Ice, and then I did Who Killed Tupac on A&E with Ben Crump. I'm not sure if you saw that.
Yeah.
Those are some of the shows that I produced, and one of them I was in. And so I remember going back to Compton, and Suge's mom worked for the
school district,
city of Compton, and then his dad was a garbage driver, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Middle class family, totally fine neighborhood, truly, totally cool. Went to great schools, professional football player. And when you actually talk to him in real life, he was way smarter and cooler and funny than what he had to do. But I think he got caught up in that image and stayed in it for so long. And this is no disrespect to him. I'm speaking from my own real life, is that he wanted to be gangster so bad that the gangster cost him his freedom. And I think that we got to be smarter about that in our hip hop culture. And people nowadays, I did a show, Hip Hop Homicides, which was on WE TV with Van Lathan and 50. I found that a lot of these drill rappers, I did King Von, FBG Duck, Soldier Slim, a bunch of these rappers, they're trying to live out the lyrics that they put as if that's real life. But I'm like, these people that really do this, they want to see you. And so I think that I hate to see that people take the gangster moniker and try to live it out. Because as you know, Lonzo, you, Triple OG, real gangsters don't usually get fat and move to Miami. They usually end up dead in the jail. Real spill.
And you would think, me and Dusty been doing this show what, about 5-6 years now, Dusty?
Oh, yeah, more like 7-8.
More like 7-8. We started doing this way before the pandemic, and the pandemic is 5 years past due. It was 1 year out of 52 shows we did. It was 50 cats that got killed in 1 year.
Every
Wow.
year, FBG Duck,
every week.
PNB Rock. I mean,
You
it
guys
was
did it through all
every
those
single
years?
week. Doughboy 3 or whatever, all the.
Yeah.
A lot of these
Sad.
cats I didn't really know, but they were from the hip hop community, a new generation. But you would think after watching 50 guys get killed in a year that you might want to try something different. Try a
Well,
different approach to the.
as a person who watched Chris and Pac, Big and Pac die and was there, I really hoped that they would learn from what we went through to not do the same thing again. If you see how this movie usually ends up, I'm not sure if you want to go to that same movie. You know what I mean? And
Right,
so I seen the FPG Duck, but these kids, they like smoking on your op and they're going to hunt you in your afterlife. And it's some next level shit, brother. I'm just saying. So I'm afraid, like myself, I've never been afraid of my own people, but you from CPT, I went to O Block and I was like, I might need to have some security over here. You know what I mean? Because you don't know. They see the $100,000 worth of equipment and they like, hey, that looks like food to me. So we just got to be careful,
Yeah.
That's
Let me ask you something. Switch up gears a bit since we're going kind of in that topic. But speaking of gangster shit and when being gangster goes too far, what are your thoughts on Keefe D making the statements that eventually led his door to be kicked in and him to be hauled off to prison where he currently resides now?
Well, it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It probably is a duck. And so, I think Keefe should have been in jail motherfucking 3 weeks after it happened. Everybody was bragging about who did it anyway, from a street perspective, and the cops knew who did it. Everybody knew what the deal was, and at some point you can only brag about a murder and say what you did and not get arrested. He had a deal with the cops in the beginning for selling some drugs. They put that under the thing and for information. So he didn't know how to shut the F up, and it eventually cost him his time. So he should have been in jail. I got zero love for Keefe D. Obviously, Pac put himself in a situation, unfortunately, I think that may have cost him his life by some of his actions, but I don't think that warrants you killing anybody, period, ever. And so, I think Keefe should be in jail for life. It's unfortunate none of the other young men who were in the car got any justice. I guess they got murdered, most of them. So I guess that's close,
So in reality, after all the investigating that you've done, who do you think killed Tupac in your opinion?
Either somebody in that car. If Orlando didn't pull the trigger, someone else in the backseat did. Period. That's it. I don't want to hear all you internet trolls and back and forth. I was there. I was with people in the car. I know people who saw it. I know people who were in the car right behind it. I talked to people who literally saw Tupac on the ground bleeding. This is not like, conspiracy, the white man.